Hello, it's Gray.
Hello, it's Crystal.
And this is Best Asian Beauties of Supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who's seen this show many, many times.
And I, someone who only knows about the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 5 episode 12, Swap Meet. Written by Julie Siege, Rebecca Desertine, and Harvey Fedor. Very many people. Teleplay by Julie Siege, directed by Robert Singer. This is a Robert Singer episode. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, he didn't really have many zooms.
Yeah. I do think the directing of this episode was pretty fun. Like, it's nice. Good for them.
Yeah. Okay, Desertine works as an assistant to Eric Kripke, and this is her only episode.
This episode, I did like it.
It was fine.
It was fine. It was not bad. It was...
I would say it was bad fine more than good fine for me personally. But honestly, I was just so stuck on how Dean didn't realize it was Sam, or it was not Sam for that long. Like, I just couldn't. It was hard to suspend my disbelief.
I think what it is, you know, there's a fine, not a fine line, good, not a good line, and then there's a enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it line. And for those three lines, I would say that it's closer to fine more than not fine, closer to bad than good, but very much in the I enjoyed it category.
Yeah. Okay, I think on the first two I would agree with you, and then on the last one I think I didn't enjoy it that much.
As in, you didn't enjoy it at all, or not that much? What's the...
It was fine on the enjoyment scale.
Okay, yeah. I enjoyed it, I think, because I just haven't watched Supernatural in a while. And I was like, we're back, baby.
Yeah. We are back. Indeed.
So the last time we watched an episode was like 3 weeks ago. So
yeah,
I like Supernatural. Who would have done? Who would have thought?
You say this every episode.
I know, but it's true. It's true. I do actually like Supernatural.
True. Many people would have thunk.
Yeah.
Including your sister's boyfriend.
Let's not talk about it.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, but you know, the moment your sister's boyfriend clocks you as watching Supernatural, it could be the worst experience in your life ever. And you just have to live with it. Yeah. Yeah, what did you know about this episode before you started watching it?
Just that Sam was gonna body swap with a teen boy who like does physics, and he calls him a virgin. Yeah.
Which is, you know, I think it's a succinct but accurate enough representation of this episode.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's plot stuff that's happening, but like, you know, the appeal of it is that Sam swaps bodies with a 17-year-old.
Yeah, I think I just didn't get into it because it's like some episodes are only meant to be funny, but like it still exists in the larger world of Supernatural. So then it's like I don't know where to place this in the canonicity of it.
Do you think this is canon or what's happening?
Like, I think it is canon. It's just hard for me to reconcile it with the rest of canon. Also, remember how 2 weeks ago Lucifer literally raised death? Like, are we gonna get back to that? Yeah. Like, does that not change anything about the state of the world?
It's so funny later on, like, when Gary was, like, in Sam's body and Dean hasn't clocked it yet. He was like, oh, the plan, and what's gonna make me feel better is kicking some ass. And I was like, even Gary
just like in Supernatural posts.
Even Gary has subscribed fully to this belief system. Like, good on him.
Yeah.
I, I think I understand what you mean, that this is difficult to reconcile with the canon of the show, because it doesn't feel like it fits, you know?
Yes.
Like, it does feel like something that they just made up. And I know everything is made up in a TV show, like Supernatural.
Yeah,
but, like,
they especially made it up
like,
here.
it feels like fanficky in a way, but not that kind of fanficky.
Yes.
More like somebody just had, like, a, wouldn't it be so funny if, and then they did it.
Yeah, like it was based around like
A concept.
a fun
Yeah.
scenario for a case, and I don't know if it's particularly grounded in the rest of the happenings of season 5 or even Sam and Dean's characterization.
That is fascinating to think about, because there are definitely episodes that are concept episodes, but feel real. Like,
Yeah, like what is
Terrible
and What
Life.
Should Never
It's a
Be,
Terrible
or-
Life. It's
yeah.
a concept episode. What is and what should never be, which I've been thinking about, because our next episode is, I don't know if you know, it's Song Remains the Same.
Oh.
So
Nice.
I've been thinking a lot about the other Mary episodes and the other Led Zeppelin song title episodes when I was pondering on
Real.
that. This one doesn't feel that real, but like sometimes Supernatural does that, I feel. And I forget about
Yeah,
it promptly.
It's just wild that like the real Ghostbusters felt like a real episode and this one doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I feel like this one actually feels like such a late Supernatural episode, because this is like the kind of shenanigans
it's
that they
just a
get over
romp.
there. Like, especially with the way that the side characters do actually feel like they're there. Like, they're given screen time.
Right.
They're given motivations or whatever. It feels like, it feels closer to what Supernatural becomes later on. You're right. This is an odd episode in that way. I think maybe that's a little bit of the reason why I enjoyed it. Because it's like, oh, they're trying something
Right,
new.
yeah.
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 Well,
And I hate new things.
yeah. It's okay. So we start the episode, no dance sequence. Nothing has ever happened before in Supernatural.
I mean, it doesn't feel connected to anything that's happened before in Supernatural, so there's trash.
Yeah. And well, there's a lady sitting in the bar.
Yeah, and we're not gonna say what her name is, because she's not allowed to have it.
I loved it.
She hasn't done anything wrong. She's just not allowed to have
love
it. That's
it.
my name.
Love it. Yeah. Do you hate when characters have your name in
Yes.
picture?
I hate it. I hate it so much. Like, sorry to that perfectly nice girl in Yellow Jackets, but thank God Misty pushed her off a cliff so I didn't have to hear her name anymore.
Yeah. Well, nobody is named Gray anywhere, pretty much.
Yeah.
And my old name,
Except the internet, there's a lot of people named Gray.
well, yes. But my old name is,
Are we doing the reveal now?
but it is pretty funny, isn't it? I feel like
It is pretty
I feel
funny.
like it's
If you hadn't changed this name, this scene would be so funny.
yeah. My other name is Sam. So like that's hilarious to me. So I don't know. I think I just got immune from like being uncomfortable when a fictional character has my name, because like
Yeah, because many have your name.
because many have my name, and also I was a Supernatural fan for like most of the time that I was named Sam. So like,
Right.
and Sam Winchester is literally on my screen. So like, you know, it's fine.
It's true.
I mean, can I say the story of how, like, when I first started getting into the Supernatural fandom, and I have, like, you know, my pronouns, he, him, I'm trans, people know it, and they would just assume that,
Yes.
like, I changed my name to be, like, Sam Winchester for real.
Yes.
Which is so embarrassing. And I was like, maybe that's the reason why I changed my name, honestly. Like, people thinking that I changed my name to Sam to fit Sam is like, well, why are we doing this?
Exactly. Your name should have been Charlie.
It literally should have
After another supernatural character.
been. Exactly. Instead, my name is Gray, short for Gregory House MD.
The MD is part of the name.
Yeah, it truly is. Sam, Sam, quote unquote,
Yeah, someone who we think is Sam right now.
walks into
Maybe.
the bar and like sits beside this lady, but not like in a he's trying to hit her up way. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He is like buying drinks. He's been buying a
Banana daiquiri, my good man.
yeah, banana daiquiri. And he does this whole thing where he lifts up his ID to be like, look, I'm 26. And then you look at, you know, Sam Winchester's hairline and you're like, I can guess. I'm so sorry. That's so mean. But he doesn't look young, is what I'm trying to say. Crystal, the lady in this episode.
No, that's not her name. That's just a random woman who never had a name. But yes.
This lady is like telling Sam, but he, you know, he has already introduced himself as Gary at this point. That he is a stunning looking man. And he goes, I know, right? And then I actually really love the way they style Sam's hair this scene, or like Jared's hair, I guess, this scene, because it's like it looks shorter, I guess. And we have talked about how Sam has like bangs and a bit shorter of a crop when they're trying to make him look like younger and more harmless. And when they're trying to be like, oh, he's a terrifying sexual behemoth or whatever, his hair's longer and like, you know, he doesn't have any bangs. And his sideburns have a thing going for them. And in this one, like, when he is Sam, he does look like Sam with the, you know, normal hair length and the normal bang situation for Sam Winchester in season 5. But when he is Gary, they change it up just a little bit, so you know that something's different. And yeah, Jared, I think he's having a good time doing this performance. Recently, there's this post on Tumblr. I think I'll revlog it on.
Oh god, yeah, the one where he was basically sexually harassing DJ Qualls the entire time he was on set.
Yeah, I mean, like, just that entire like post. Like, so basically it was like someone looked up gay in Supernatural Wiki to look for something, and then they screenshotted a bunch of things that they found like in the you know, in Supernatural Wiki. And like I was just struck completely by the fact that like these people are like actually homophobic, I think.
Like incredibly homophobic and misogynistic.
And like, you know, like I was thinking about that, and then I remember I messaged you. I was like, oh my god, like literally every single time they were like making fun of Sam for being gay because he's like a salad eating liberal or something. Like they were actually making fun of him. Like they were actually making fun of him. It wasn't like a 5D chess of making fun. Like they actually were just straight up making fun of him. And I do think about that now every time Sam is like, you know, or like Jared is acting here in a way that's like dorky or whatever, that he's like making fun of this kid pretty much. And then like later on, like they have Sam shake a salad and Dean's like, dude, that's gay as hell. I mean, he doesn't say it's gay as hell, but you know the implications.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, they really are homophobic in this show. And this isn't even homophobia. Like what Jared is doing here right now isn't homophobia. It's like he's just making fun of, you know, the way teenagers act or something. And the situation is funny in that way.
I think he's making fun of like virgins. Though.
But I feel like it does come from the same general direction, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a lack of masculinity in this kid that is what's being made fun of, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the lady just keeps on trying to hit him up, but he keeps on missing the mark. And, you know.
Yeah, I would have backed up. Like, I would have backed down by this point. Like, it seems like he's sending a hint even though he's not sending a hint, you know?
Like, just give up.
Yeah.
But, you know, she's like, are you having a good night? And Gary's like, yeah, this is like the best night ever. And she's like, no, but like, can we make it any better? Do you want to get out of here? And he's like, well, I mean, I like this bar and I just ordered this daiquiri. It's actually pretty funny, honestly.
It is pretty funny.
And then, yeah, finally she was like, no, like, get out of here with me. And Gary's like, oh, do you mean like, are we talking about sex? Oh, Crystal, I would love to have those sex with you. Amazing. Iconic.
It's pretty good.
And then, off they go. And like, there's this, I don't know, the camera like pans in a certain way. And we see that this is not actually Sam, but a kid, like a 17-year-old. I did not think he was 17, like, at all. I thought he was like 15.
Yeah, he looked younger. Yeah.
But, later on.
I think the 17's on purpose because the age of consent in Massachusetts is 16. But, like, Crystal still did not agree to have sex with a child she was not aware.
Yeah.
And Sam certainly did not agree to have his body used for this purpose.
That's crazy.
Especially later, like, when Crystal turns out to be a dominatrix, like, there's gonna be marks that Sam, like, will come back to, and that's gotta be really upsetting.
Yeah. It's also like, it's always so wild to me that like drinking is such a higher
age requirement.
But, alas. Yeah, it's actually Gary, a kid.
We go to 36 hours earlier. Sam and Dean are at this woman's house. She turns out to be their babysitter, sort of, in that she worked
At a motel.
as a maid at a motel that John would often leave Sam and Dean alone at. Apparently, during that time, Sam kept trying to tell her what John was doing and eventually convinced her that ghosts were real. Which, how old was... Okay, the summer before 6th grade is what Sam says.
So that's like 12, maybe 11.
Yeah. So
it's 12 because Sam's in May.
Yeah. In what grade was he in after school special? That
He's
was
like 8th grade.
Because Dean was a senior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's between Very Supernatural Christmas and after school special.
Can I give you a spoiler?
Sure.
There's an episode a bit later on. I forget what age Sam is, but it's definitely in between after school special and what's the other one? And Very Supernatural Christmas.
Supernatural.
Sam has short hair in that. Like cropped
No.
like to the skull.
What did John do to him?
I was like, I forgot about that episode, and it is always so fascinating to me because that episode, I'll just spoil it. It's the with the one with Sully, the one where with the imaginary friend.
Oh, cute.
Which is like, a significant Sam episode. But I very rarely see it in like compilation of Kid Sam stuff. Because it looks so different. Because his hair is cropped to his head. But yeah, I think during this time, that was like the Sam that we're supposed to imagine. Short-haired Sam.
Wow. What a different man that is.
I know. And the like part of the plot of that episode was he wanted to go hunting with Dean and John, but they were like, no, Sam, we just have to leave you in this motel room. And then that's why he was hanging out with Sully a lot. And then eventually, like, Sully was like, you should run away. And then Sam was like, okay, let's do it.
Oh, and he has a dog.
Yeah, but then Dean calls and was like, you can come with us now. And Sam was like, no, but that's so wonderful because I really want to like go hunting with my older brother who I admire and my dad who I think I also admire. So like,
sorry to that kid.
I think there is a through line between like Sam trying to convince their babysitter to be like, no, but like my dad really is a hunter and there really are ghosts, in combination with that version of Sam who still admired and wanted to be involved with the hunting life in a way,
So you're saying that, okay, because I sort of read this as him acting out, but you think it was more of a, like, my dad's so admirable and cool?
Yeah, because probably this woman was like, I can't believe your father's just leaving you behind and being so horrible to you. And Sam would be like,
no, he's a hero.
He's actually fighting monsters and everything. That's how I imagined young
Yeah.
Sam to speak.
You've watched the episode. Is that what his voice sounds like?
It should have been. They should have hired that kid and then hired me to do a voiceover, like a dub of the kid speaking.
So true. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I guess I viewed it either as him acting out or just him being a lonely kid, but I think your thing makes sense, like, logically.
They did not, like, follow through with this fucking case at all.
Yeah. I mean, they burned the body.
I mean, they
it's
did.
over.
They did, and they, saved the family and the kid or whatever it is that they did. But it is pretty funny that, like, this is the first time we see them.
We never see them again.
And it's just to introduce the concept of, man, what if there...
Of Lisa.
Yeah, like, what if there is a family that, we get to live with and a wife and some kids. Settle down, blah, blah, blah. Ugh. Nobody should settle down or get married.
It's true. We should make all marriage illegal.
Yeah. That's not true good.
But yeah.
I'm so sorry to everyone who is happily married. But people who are unhappily married, you're welcome.
Anyway, but yeah, I think this is a good example of, I guess, first, like, a family that knows about monsters but doesn't feel the need to become hunters.
Yeah, and they seem
and
well
I think
adjusted.
it's because it's a woman that learned about it first and not a man. I think if it was a man, it would have been like, he has to be a hunter.
Yeah. You think so?
Yeah, they seem well adjusted, and they were able to reach out to Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
As soon as they were like, this might be a ghost, and that's helpful if only more people knew.
Yeah. And, as Dean says earlier, like, they don't seem consumed by it the way,
right.
I don't know, like, you would normally expect in a TV show like Supernatural. Because, later on, like, Jodie and Donna, like, these are people who, like, know about the life. And they are a little bit consumed by it. Like, I mean, they have lives, like, they have a job, they're cops. Ugh, horrible. Maybe should have just...
They should have just been more, they should have been more consumed by it.
No, but, like, I think this is a very different dynamic with hunting that this woman has than women further in the show that we meet and have a similar happenstance with hunting.
Yeah, I mean, I think because they were already cops, it's like they have the skills or whatever to do murder.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this is a template for how Dean could eventually be happy with the domestic life, knowing about ghosts, but not really doing any active hunting. Blah, blah, blah.
I did not even connect that dot, like, at all.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
this is revealed.
They do a lot of dot connecting, though.
Yeah. It's just, to introduce the idea.
Yeah.
That, like, what if we have a domestic life with women?
With women.
I don't want to sound that dismissive. Like, I understand, like, what they're trying to do, but Supernatural is the one who's dismissive, not me.
Yeah. And it's just, the Lisa thing is so ridiculous. Every single time, like, they have a long-term relationship with a woman, it's ridiculous to me.
It's
like, it's just wild to me that, like, Lisa would be single when Dean went back, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, she...
Like, if she wanted a relationship, she would be in a relationship due to how she's, like, hot and somehow the most well-paid yoga instructor of all time, owning her own house.
Yeah, this is why, when it was Sam's turn, they made her a military wife with a dead guy. Like,
exactly. Like, that was realistic. And I don't know what was going on with Daphne, but, like, if you're willing to marry a naked man in the woods,
yeah,
like,
and be like a
all power
religious
to you.
whatever with him, like,
Yeah, this isn't to hate on Lisa. Like, she's allowed to have, like, bad taste in men.
Yeah, but the
But
thing
I
is,
do think that the
Supernatural doesn't
writers
frame it that
just-
way, is the thing.
Yeah.
And I will reserve my judgment over Lisa because I feel like, she has been quite hated in the fandom from every single direction of hatred. So, like, I just would rather see first if that is the case.
You've watched the show.
But not with a critical mindset. I would just watch the show.
Fair enough.
I mean, I don't really remember much about Lisa, honestly.
She has this kid, Katie. There was a poltergeist who attacked her 2 nights ago and cut the words murdered child into her stomach, and it's quite miserable to look at.
Wild. Yeah. I was surprised
yeah.
by it. I did not expect it at all.
Yeah.
Like the carving on this abdomen. Like, that's pretty wild.
Pretty visceral, yeah.
I mean, in season 11, they do a version of this that is so ungodly funny.
The I am coming one.
With Cass. They carve it in his chest. Shiver of chest, water of two.
But yeah, Sam and Dean are like, we got this, you get out of town.
Get out of town.
So, they're now at a diner, and Gary, the kid that we saw was in Sam's body earlier, is working there. And there's this bit where Gary's really judgmental over how, like, on top of, like, burger and fries, there was a Healthquake salad shake that was ordered.
He's judgmental about the salad, yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, when Sam, like, gets the salad shake, he puts dressing in it and then starts shaking the bottle. And Dean is just... Really?
I know, the thing is, I am a salad shaker. I love to shake a salad. But, like, anytime anybody else around me is shaking a salad, I'm like, you're the most pretentious person alive on earth. Like, why are you doing this?
The dressing needs to be evenly distributed.
I know because I do it and I love doing it. But, like, when other people do it, I also become the most judgmental person in the world. But, like, I don't think that's what Dean is doing here. I think Dean's is coming from a different place.
Yeah, because you shake it up, baby. But I think he's just coming from a stop drawing attention to the fact that you're eating gay food for gay people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam would love shaking boba.
Oh, we never even see them drink milk tea ever in the show.
It's true.
Do we ever see them eat anything other than, like, burgers, fries,
salad? They eat chicken when they go to dinner at Jody's.
Yeah, but that's, like, a big deal because eating chicken is gay according to Supernatural, I think.
Well, I think
but not
it's
roasted
more
chicken.
of a, like, they got, like, a home-cooked meal for the first time in their lives, blah, blah, blah. They eat SpaghettiOs as children.
Sam
and Lucky
was
Charms.
served soup. Dean serves him soup.
Yes, the soup scene. When
Cass
he's in the green
eats
blankie.
PB&J.
It's true. And burritos.
Ethnic food.
God.
I mean, it's so... I mean, everybody has said that, like, it's wild that Cass, Angel of the Lord, has like a distinction about ethnic food or whatever. But, like, it is also just wild to me that, like, if you are going to classify things as ethnic food or whatever, that, like, American style burrito is like what you would define it as. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Dean chokes on tacos and sausages in Mystery
This is
Spot.
true. He eats one sausage.
Yeah, there's pancakes and things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
There's
burgers
pancakes.
are the main thing. Yeah, I guess Dean in the curious case was like, I'm gonna take care of my health now, but I guess he changed his mind immediately after.
He ate a bagel. Yeah.
Yeah.
In It's a Terrible Life. Are bagels also considered gay?
I think so.
People who anything.
no.
This show is so stupid.
Dean says that Donna looked pretty good, which Sam interprets it as wanting to fuck their babysitter, which apparently Dean wanted way back when as well. But no, he meant it in terms of, like, I think that I should get settled down with a hot woman.
It is kind of wild to me that, like, people think of settling down as getting married and then having kids.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's just a generational distinction that I think you and I, like, people our age will just never understand, maybe. Because,
what do
like,
you view as settling down?
I don't think I ever thought about it.
Yeah.
Like, I think settling down is having a nice job.
Yeah.
Like, when I'm secure in my career, I've settled down.
Like having, like, a house or an apartment where you can pay the rent every month or whatever.
Well,
I think I view it more as, like, a geographical consistency thing.
yeah. Like, I've stayed in this town or city or whatever for a set amount of time, and I will continue to do so, and I've dedicated my life to being a citizen here. Like, that's that thing.
Yeah, like, I intend to continue working a job here, probably the same one as the one I have.
Yeah. Like, my 10-year plan involves being in the same place. Not settling down. But, like, like, it was, like, Mother's Day recently. So, I've been, like, looking at, people posting stuff, people talking about motherhood. And it is fascinating to see that, like, our mothers and the ones before them, like, did see it as, like, part of the path of your life. Like, you're just supposed to marry and you're just supposed to have kids. And it's like, why did you want to do it? Because now it's like, if you're gonna have kids, you've gotta want that shit, I feel like. But, like, back then it was just like, well, I didn't necessarily want it or not want it. It's just what was you're supposed to do. So I feel like,
my
given
mom did
that
want
context,
it, I think, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because of
the Chinese. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't born in China, but every time me and my sister have visited China, people have assumed that we're twins, so that's how we got around it. But it's like, no, we were born in the U.S.
Yeah. Given that, I do now have, like, a more forgiving stance whenever Sam and Dean talk about settling down in a way that is like, you just end up with a woman and that's settling down. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I've been looking at it from a different lens for a long time.
Like, yeah, from, like, they feel entitled to, like,
a wife.
Yeah,
from a woman. Yeah, but, like, I think I'm beginning to be like, well, that's
like, women would also view settling down as having a husband.
Yeah. Or, like, that's just a cultural expectation. Like, I mean, I think it's still a lot of the time, especially the way Supernatural deals with it, very, misogynistic. But, like, just on a character level, like, removed from how the show frames it afterwards. Like, Sam and Dean thinking of settling down as having a wife. I don't have that kick of, like, ugh, whenever they say it anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wow, we're, like, improving and growing and whatever in this multi-year long podcast.
Perhaps one could call
not
it
that much,
improving
though.
and growing.
Not that much.
The case is that apparently this house, which is old as fuck, it was owned in the 1720s by a guy who hung a woman for witchcraft in his backyard. Oh, Dean's so horrible. Sam goes, that still doesn't explain what murdered child means, and Dean goes, no, or where the bitch is buried. Like, what did she do wrong? You just learned that she was, like, murdered so horribly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like a continuation of witchcraft being something he hates so much.
Yeah,
it's
but like we don't even know for sure that. Like, imagine hearing like a man killed a woman for a witchcraft in the 1720s and go like he was probably right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the stats are not in this guy's favor.
I love how prior to this, I was like, I don't really see Dean's remarks as misogynistic anymore. And then he follows it up with the most misogynistic thing ever could be said.
Like, she probably wasn't a witch. Like, if she is, like, that's like against the probabilities. But yeah. Unless in the supernatural verse, all of the Salem witch trial witches were real witches. It's possible that that's like what's canon for supernatural. That's fucked up. And the whole time Gary's like looking at Sam with like an evil smirk on his face or whatever.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I literally, this whole time was like, it's because Sam ordered a salad? Like, what's this about?
Real. Huh. Okay, wait. We didn't actually talk about Sam saying that it wasn't really his thing anymore.
Which what?
The settling down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It
okay,
happens.
that's been true since at least season 4 because he didn't want to go back and say goodbye to Kara. Like, was like Sarah like in
like-
season 2 or 1?
That's such a
one?
funny as fuck example. What a wild example.
Well, they make a point
They
of it
do,
as
but,
like
like-
Sam being like, what's the point of me going back and saying bye to her? Like, was Sarah the last relationship he like sort of had any hope for?
Right now, at this point,
And that was in season 1. Like, just in the show, like, when was the most recent romantic connection?
no, like
Sam
at this
had
point
that,
in the
like,
show, you mean? I think
Yeah.
so. Like Madison, I guess, but like he dies immediately. So
That is
Sam's
true.
not really a romance type, I feel. And when he is, he's so ungodly
after
annoying. Have you
Jeff,
noticed that?
Yeah, like, with Madison, he was definitely very annoying, yes.
This theme of Sam like wanting to settle down and stuff, it shows up a lot. By the time the Lisa stuff ends, Dean basically abandons it completely again. Like, that's why it does feel a little bit forced, you know? Like, Dean wanting to settle down. Because, like, with Sam, there is a through line. Like, he wanted to settle down because he wanted, you know, the normalcy, safety, whatever. And then that blew up in his face so bad. And now he's like, whatever, man. Who give a shit? And then the next time he attempts to settle down was because he thought his hunting life was basically over because Dean's dead.
Right.
So, like, you know, there's complexity there. And then Sam goes back to, like, not thinking about it. But it's, like, mostly not thinking about it. It's not necessarily a negative on settling down. And he brings it up again on season 11. And then, you know, we know that he has a romance with Eileen afterwards, where he does consider it.
Well, does he consider it as a settling down thing, or just like a we'll be in a relationship and also like hunt or whatever?
I mean, like the way Sam words it is settle down with a hunter, somebody who understands the life. So it was like still hunting, but like in a way that is more, you have a home base of, you know, someone like that. And yeah, he says that in Baby. And in the same season, he meets Eileen. Let's not talk about it. Or let us. Who knows? Well, what I mean is like Sam like has a journey with it. Of like, oh, if I'm going to have a relationship, it's only like a relationship, no hunting. Oh, if I'm going to be a hunter, no relationship at all. And then like, oh, I've hunting is basically over. I'm going to go back to a relationship. And then eventually settling down, waffling down to like, I can have both. Which is like his disposition towards the end. Versus Dean, who's basically like, I'm never going to settle down. And then just for this brief moment, just to accommodate the plot, he goes, but what if? And it's like he's never shown this.
I guess guess you could read this as him reacting to the doctor and Sam interrupted asking him if he's ever had a long-term relationship. Because the doctor was created in his mind, right? So
He's
like
been
the
thinking
two
about
things that he sort of viewed as like wrong with his life is his alcoholism and his lack of a long-term relationship. Like that's what she starts
Yeah,
with.
and they never acknowledge the alcoholism, but decide to acknowledge this one.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I feel like I'm dumbing it down quite a lot with Dean. Like later on at the end, I do think that Dean thinks of himself as settled down in a way with, in Lebanon.
Yeah, I have a family thing.
So, yeah. I don't know. That is pretty funny that like Dean's like, I have a family, and Sam's like, I'm looking for a wife. He wasn't. But like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sam and Dean separate. Sam's like walking down a fucking road on a call with Dean. And then, just normal talking about the case stuff. And as he hangs up, there's a dart that like hits him right on the neck. And
yeah, and then he starts mooing like a cow.
yeah, falls to the ground. And then like when he wakes up, he is in Gary's uniform from the diner. And yeah, it's kind of a fun outfit. It's a fun outfit.
Yeah.
And he starts like walking, and a sheriff like comes up to him like in a police car, and it's like, man, your parents are looking for you. Your family's looking for you. Let's get you back home. You're like, it's cold. Your family's worried sick. And he was like, my brother called you, which is a very fun visual, honestly. Like, it's never gonna happen. I understand why Sam was so scandalized, confused, and kind of upset. Yeah, Sam gets into a car and gets let down in a house that is like, normal suburbs. And Gary's parents come down. It's his mom and dad. And his mom's worried. His dad's like upset with him because they think he's like, got drunk or did drugs or whatever. Mm-hmm. And
are you smoking drugs?
Yeah.
Don't say that. He is not smoking drugs.
I do find the smoking drugs scene quite funny. Like, what a wording. But
it's pretty good.
Yeah. And yeah. And Sam's like, whoa, like, don't hug me. Who are you? Who's that man? Who are you, lady?
Man, he's annoying sometimes.
He truly is. He needs to stop saying lady altogether. Let's just ban it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's complexity to the word. Like, you can use it in different situations. But with Sam Winchester, you can't, like, at all. He can't.
Yeah. Yeah. When he, like, in his community theater role gets a part in Much Ado About Nothing, he has to cut that word out every time he addresses a woman.
Yeah. Eventually, Sam, like, tries to get back into car. But as he does, he sees his shadow on the car door.
Reflection.
Not a shadow, you're right. His reflection on the car door, just like Milan. And
yeah,
he's like, who is that man? I see.
Yeah.
And he was very shocked again, scandalized. So, Gary is, back in the motel where they are. And he's in Sam's body, and we just see Sam, like, initially, like, looking at the mirror and, like, flexing his muscles. He, like, took off his overshirt, so it's just his tee. And it's a gray V-neck.
Yeah, it's his gray
I
V-neck.
have this exact shirt. And it does
true.
not wear it like that on me whatsoever, but I do have it. And yeah, looks wonderful on Sam. And Gary's just like super impressed with his muscles. And Dean like walked in to what he thinks is Sam like flexing in his mirror, which is so funny. And
you live in a world of shapeshifters, Dean Winchester.
Yeah, it is kind of wild that he did not clock this.
Yeah. Like, later when Sam, like reverses the Impala into, like, when Gary reverses the Impala into, like, a pile of garbage, like, I feel like at that point, Dean should have, like, tested some silver on him at least.
Yeah. But like the reason why Dean suspects is because Sam sleeps with a MILF. And as we know, he's lactose intolerant. So what is it with that running gag? That like MILFs are really into Sam.
I don't know.
Older women in general. I should stop saying MILFs. Yeah.
I don't really know what the gag
It's
is.
just a thing that they do. Because they do it. It is a thing.
They do it.
Gary like gives Dean some food, but it's like, you know, Dean's usual fare. And Dean starts like raising his eyebrow at this a little bit. Gary says like, oh, we need to go by the way because the maid saw all the guns and now they're freaking out. They're off and like Gary takes all of the phones and throws them out, I guess. That's a plot point because Sam keeps on trying to contact Dean and then it's not working. And later on, Dean receives the voicemails from his hotel phone. And it's Sam's voice.
I don't know how that happened.
I also don't know how it happened. And I'm miffed about the Sam's voice being the thing that's used there. Because I feel like that's such an easy fix. Like just have the Gary actor.
The Gary guy say the
and it's like
words.
such a small detail that if you do right, it's quite like, oh, that's so fun. And if you do wrong, it's so obvious and terrible.
But also, how did Sam get Dean's motel room?
I feel like they went back. Or did they?
Oh, to the previous one? Oh, it's possible, yeah.
Oh, I used the word miffed correctly, by the way, because I said it. I took a chance. And then I Googled it afterwards, and it's correct.
Proud of you. Congrats.
Dean arrives, sets off to leave, but then Gary is like, hold on. Can I drive? And then he does so. And he doesn't know how to.
I think he just doesn't know how to drive stick because, like, he is 17, so if he wanted to get his license at 16, then he would have learned how to drive some cars, probably just not the Impala.
Yeah. Well, why would he volunteer?
Because, I don't know, he thinks the car is so neat and he wants a chance to drive.
Yeah, I'd be terrified out of my life. Maybe this is him trying to kill Dean.
Yeah.
He's like, if I hit the dumpster at the back with this car that Dean loves so much, he'll have a heart attack and then die.
Real.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what he does. He like is trying to move forward, but he reverses. And Dean's pissed at him.
But he doesn't suspect anything.
Yeah. Like, maybe he's like...
what a low opinion he must have.
No, really.
Sam.
Like, maybe he just... maybe the reason Sam never gets to drive is because Dean thinks he's just an awful driver.
Yeah, even though he's proven that he's not. Maybe, like, one time when, like, Sam was, like, turning 16 or whatever, and Dean was like, okay, like, you just got your license, like, I'll let you drive for a treat, and then Sam accidentally fucked up, and Dean's, like, held a grudge against him for it, like, the entire time, and this dumpster was just like, I knew that behavior was gonna come back any day now, Sam.
He was like, I've always known you were a terrible driver, Sam, and now I have concrete proof that at this age you still are so... horrific at it.
Yeah. God, I don't know. This whole episode, like, I just couldn't. I stopped thinking about how Dean doesn't like Sam.
Yeah.
Like in some ways, it's very much like the Siren episode where it's like, oh my god, you want me to turn my music up? Wow, you're great. I hate my brother for real.
Like
you know,
when they were like, they're doing the fucking thing. Wait, this is so stupid.
They were doing shots together.
No, like when Gary and Dean were doing the exorcism together, I was like, they're having a brother moment. And they're literally not, because they're not brothers.
Yeah.
Like, why can't Sam and Dean do an exorcism together like this?
Yeah, no, it was always, like, only one of them, like, did all the work. It's because, I don't know, it's usually because Dean didn't, like, know the words, right? Like, why does he know the words now?
Well, he memorized it.
Yeah. I guess eventually
he listened to it on repeat on Sam's MP3.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I mean, we've talked constantly about how we don't understand the rules of exorcisms. Like, apparently,
Yeah.
if two separate people do the lines trading off, it also works. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
don't
also
get
like
it.
Dean goes like adios, right?
Yeah,
And then he goes, actually
it's
and then it works.
or whatever. Yeah,
And it works when he says it.
yeah. So like,
Even
you would
though
have
it's like-
interruptions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What if I just, say one word every year of my life? Like,
Yeah.
how's that gonna work?
exactly.
What a long life. Yeah. I don't know. They head out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, they just do it. They just
Yeah.
head out. And
Yeah.
they just keep on hunting together. Maybe Dean hates Sam for real.
Yeah.
I mean, later, like,
Doesn't
like when
Sam.
they get in the car, even before the bit where Sam is like, turn down the music.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, what are they gonna go back? What are they going back to? Like,
Yeah.
they hate each other.
Too.
It's also so funny that, like later on we have a scene, like Cass gets, imprisoned and then, like, a demon mimics his voice whenever Dean
and
calls.
Dean's like something.
And it was like, I'm so sorry, Cass, that I wasn't able to fully understand that it wasn't you.
Yeah.
I should have known.
Meanwhile, a literal 17-year-old who had no clue what hunting was, like, managed to trick Dean that he was Sam for like a day, and Dean was just like, and I liked him
It
better
happens.
than you. Not
like, it
allowed, but
happens.
he's thinking it.
Literally.
You know, Sam in Gary's room has been calling Dean's every single phone. But, yeah. And he's coming out as trans. He says, this is gonna sound crazy, but I think I'm in the wrong body. So true. I'm proud of her.
No, literally,
But-
because I was like scrubbing through this episode at some point, and later the girl, what's her name? I forget.
Nora?
Nora, like talks about how Gary is in a trance, and then that was like the only thing I heard. I was like, wait,
Gary is trans.
maybe he is a trance.
Real.
Maybe the guy who changed his name to Sam, that is he, him pronouns on Supernatural Tumblr, is Gary all along.
So true.
I'm sure many trans people have changed their name
Yeah, just
to
period.
Sam.
Yeah, okay, just Sam.
So I'm so sorry to those people. I'm not denigrating the name. I just think it's funny that people thought that I chose it like that because of Sam Winchester. If you did choose your name because of a fictional character, it's fine.
Yeah. Good for you.
It's fine. It's wonderful.
Sam calls the motel and learns that, you know, his body is also being used by Gary. And, you know, he does the thing where he's trying to investigate Gary's life. He sees that he has AP chemistry and physics notes, and he goes, smart kid. And then he looks at a Star Wars t-shirt and goes, virgin.
This is so indicative of like Sam
Sam
and Dean's dynamic.
Winchester. Like, learning like AP classes? Hell yeah. Star Wars? Ew.
This is like if Dean was in this position, he'd see the Star Wars and be like, huh. And then he'd see the fucking AP like physics and be like, damn, this kid's a fucking loser.
Yeah.
So it's so
God.
Sam Winchester. Love it. Love it so much.
And then, unfortunately, the title of our podcast appears briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a magazine under that guy's bed. Sam goes, frustrated virgin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hate it. Why
Hate
is this
it.
porn mag so uproariously famous?
I just don't know. Like, I get that they were lazy and didn't want to design another one, but, like, I don't. It's so weird that so many people in this world have Asian fetishes, and
Yeah.
like, we're just gonna say it aloud and look at the camera about it.
No, yeah, that's like we've talked about it before, but like Supernatural just does think that it's the status quo to have an Asian fetish, I think.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
yeah,
John Shaban, you really started something there.
yeah. Also, like, Sam calls like the motel to check whether he can connect to Dean, and then the guy there says like, "Oh no, they already left. Like one of them's wearing a leather jacket, and then the other is Sasquatch." So,
Yeah.
which I think is fine. I think that's fun.
Yeah. And then Sam finds that there's some witchcraft things in the box as well. Sam goes down to breakfast, and he's just kind of a dick. Or it's more that he just acts like he would with Dean, but that doesn't fly within this family.
Yeah. It is kind of wild that he was like, yeah, and Gary's life is so terrible.
I know, and he was like, and his parents suck. Like, his parents just seem like regular parents to me.
Like, they're regular parents, and you just hate it because you're not Gary. You're literally...
Yeah. I mean, Gary also hates it while being Gary. But...
No, but like, specifically, the reason why Sam hates it is because he's Sam Winchester, and he's stuck in Gary's body. Mm-hmm. If this was like a Sam willingly chose this situation and he has parents who are like, you know, supportive of his college education, like I think he'd be like, yeah, it's fine. But no, he thinks Gary's life sucks ass completely.
So we learn here that Gary's parents really want him to like stick to this plan where he gets a good SAT score, he goes to MIT and becomes an engineer. Gary's dad says you need a full ride. I don't think MIT gives merit-based scholarships. I think it's a need-based financial aid thing. Like, maybe he's talking about applying to outside scholarships. But anyway, yeah, Sam's just being rude, and he's asking questions about himself, aka Gary, to learn more. And the whole time, like, Gary's sister seems to know something, but is holding it back.
He's like, let me guess. Because he was, you know, he's trying to be like, oh, am I doing witchcraft? And he goes, let me guess, I'm amazing at Latin. And his mom goes, you have an ear for languages. And I loved it so much.
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Yeah, and then this is also where Gary's dad goes, are you smoking drugs? And the mom goes, Leonard, he is not smoking drugs. A wonderful comedic delivery.
Yeah.
And then finally Sam brings up like this old leather-bound book, and the sister's just doing the like, bro, what the fuck face. And then Sam learns after grabbing a bite of toast off of Gary's mom's plate that he's allergic to wheat gluten.
Yeah.
And then after he does all his like shitting and throwing up, Gary's sister confronts him about the creepy book thing, and Sam learns where Gary hides it.
Gary and Dean go to work the case, and I don't know, where are they going?
Yeah, because they were like, let's get out. I think they just went to a new motel, right? Like they moved from the Lucky Star to the Evergreen Motel.
Yeah. So like Dean initially was like, we're gonna go and do a tombstone, whatever. Look at the cemetery. But then Gary is like, wait, you're looking for Maggie Briggs? She's not in the cemetery. She's in the basement. He says that, oh, actually, she wasn't a witch because she was actually like pregnant with his illegitimate child. And then he killed her and then buried her in the basement.
Yeah.
And this is like nothing. This is nothing to Supernatural.
It is.
Yeah, this woman they just called a bitch earlier. Well... He's like, oh, I did the research last night when Dean starts, you know, being surprised at all of this. Gary is like so enthused when they go down. He's like doing poses with the gun and everything.
Yeah. He also does the like, yay, turn up your rock music, Dean Winchester thing.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. He also references Halo, I think. He's like, you know, a nerd again. I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of people conflate nerd and like geek, and those are very different things. And I find that most people who are into the video game shit and the Star Wars shit are not particularly well performers in school. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I do find it fun that he's combined in these two. Like, I don't know. Is that such a wild thing to say? Is that so stupid?
I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense. I think it's just the part where it's like, and it's cool that that is part of his character where it's like, okay.
You don't like it? Like, well, you think it's
No,
uncool?
I'm just completely neutral about it. Like, I can't imagine having feelings about it.
No, I I just think it's fine.
Okay.
As someone who was always misconstrued as having no life outside of academics in my youth.
Like, well, actually, I really liked Supernatural, so...
And I really, really did. God. I was thinking when Sam opened that cabinet and saw the Star Wars shirt, I was like, this is the exact reaction that Sam Winchester would have upon opening Crystal's cabinet, maybe.
I think Sam Winchester seeing a Castiel cardboard cutout would have other concerns.
He may have other concerns. But in a universe where he understands that it's like a fandom situation, he'd be like, what a fucking nerd.
Yeah, but he'd probably just think that I'm like a fan of that like leftist terrorist that went and like killed like a guy like who was preaching during a church ceremony or whatever.
Or he's going to think you're like a Becky type.
Well, but Castiel doesn't have like visuals.
This is true. Do you think those Supernatural fans are like, wow, that guy who blew up that church or whatever Cass did and put his face on the stained glass really looks like the description of Castiel? Or were they just like,
I mean, I'm sure that they thought that after Chuck released his next book about how Castiel went into the church and put his face on the stained glass.
oh yeah, you're right, man. The Supernatural fandom in the Supernatural universe is having a ball in this bitch, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely on like the list of irredeemable media for like most DNIs because of how Chuck so clearly just took things that actually happened.
Yeah. There's discourse all the fucking time. Eventually, like, Dean is about to burn the body, but then Gary gets flung to the wall. Oh, Gary was about to shoot Dean, and then he gets flung to the wall. And then Dean, like, saves Sam, and then gets flung to the wall and everything, and then Gary eventually burns the body. And I don't understand what they're trying to tell us here. Because from what I can gather from later on, what they're trying to tell us is that Dean saving Gary makes Gary realize that, like, Dean's a good guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Like he thought that was his brother. Like,
It's just such a... Like, Gary being like, no, seriously, like, you're a good guy, Dean. Like, what? Where is this coming from?
I guess he's also learning about hunting for the first time, right? Like, before it was like, I don't know why this demon wants to kill this guy, but it's like, oh, but he's out here
He's fine.
killing evil ghosts.
I suppose so. I don't know. It's just, is it stupid?
Yeah, I just
It
don't
is.
think Gary's learned enough about Dean at this point to draw that conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's maybe just like the adrenaline and fun of being on a hunt and like working in a team like that.
And the bonding of, like, you know,
Yeah.
doing something together.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, is Gary's relationship with his sister so bad? Like, she knows about the witchcraft. Like,
yeah, I'm assuming they have.
she is some form of a confidant.
Yeah, but I don't know. Sometimes you hate your siblings. Just like Sam and Dean.
Sam's at school in a silly teenage boy outfit, you know, still not getting through to Dean on the phone. He meets Gary's friends, who are Trev and Nora. You know, he's acting weird. He's referring to Gary in the third person. He's like, oh, I'm still drunk, blah, blah, blah. He breaks into Gary's locker and he finds the witchcraft. Decides to, like, skip school to look through it. But Trev and Nora run after him. They're all like, oh, we're worried about you. Come talk to us. And then Sam keeps leaving. And then Trev shoots him in the neck with a tranquilizer dart. It's
Love
wonderful.
it.
Where are these kids getting these things?
I feel like a tranquilizer must be difficult to get.
Yeah.
Perhaps even harder to get than a gun in the United States, honestly.
I don't know. I guess if you work with animals, you can get one. So, like... Yeah, it's possible that, I don't know, just one of their parents, like, works with horses or something.
Wow, just like in Thoroughbreds.
Ugh, good movie.
Wonderful movie.
Meanwhile, we get another Dean and Gary bonding because Dean actually hates Sam.
Yay.
So Gary takes Dean's order of a cheeseburger with a fried egg on top, which does sound pretty good.
So messy.
Yeah.
No, that's a compliment. Love that.
Yeah. And Dean, there's a bit where Dean's like, okay, who are you and what have you done with Sam? And Gary's like, huh? But Dean's just like, you're cool now because you eat bacon cheeseburgers and I suddenly like you so much better than Sam.
Literally.
They're celebrating. Gary's like, this was such an awesome day. And Dean's like, that was nothing. What the fuck? And Gary says that, like, I should be happy because I have a gun. I'm getting drunk and I look like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is very... Obviously, Jared and Jensen are attractive people.
Sure.
No, I mean, like, not in that way. I mean, like, in the you benefit from this socially kind of way.
Yeah.
And so Sam and Dean also are. And, like, I do find it fascinating that every time they have, like, a loser character, they do make a point of being like, you won't get it because, like, you guys are beautiful. Or, like, this time it's like, wow, my life is so much better because I'm attractive.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, I think the reason that MILFs weren't hitting you up in bars is because you're 17.
And you are not allowed in bars, yeah.
Like, Gary as a kid, like, they didn't cast, like, a kid who looks conventionally unattractive. Like, he just looks like a kid who's fine. Like, his face is symmetrical or whatever, you know?
Yeah. He looks like a trans guy in their 20s.
What did the wishful thinking guy say?
I don't even remember. He was
Yeah,
like, you don't
to
understand because you guys are attractive, so you'll never get the struggle of life or whatever. And Sam and Dean are like, yes, we do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's true that being conventionally attractive, like, yeah, means that you benefit socially, but it's always weird when they do it. It's supernatural.
No, I mean, the thing is, like, it is true that you benefit socially from it, but, like, but it's also true that it's, not the end-all be-all of a good life. But the way Supernatural engages with it,
like, it literally is it. And it also feels like a women are so shallow and can't see how cool I am on the inside thing.
No, but, like, the way Supernatural processes it is instead of, like, life is more complex than how one looks, it becomes, you don't understand, even attractive people have struggles. So incredibly funny. God. Do you think Sam and Dean are aware that they're attractive, aren't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, they
Dean
fucking suck so much.
And Sam, so many people fuck and suck so much who are so ugly. So, like, I don't know, it happens.
But in the world of Supernatural, like, people only fucking suck if they're, like, hot.
I'm trying to think of anyone who's fucking sucked in Supernatural who is ugly.
I guess they're, like, parents who, like, presumably fucked and sucked at some point in their life. But, like, I think I'm mostly thinking about it in Metamorphosis when, there's, like, the fat guy trying to hit some girl up at a bar. And it's like, ew, like, you're such a creep. You're so gross. Like...
Yeah.
It does seem to be a thing.
Yeah, Supernatural has... it's not representative of the general population.
No way. Really?
Who'd have thought?
And then he goes, you ever feel like your whole future is being decided for you? And he's like, yeah?
Fuck the plan.
Yeah, Carrie's like, you just can't stop the stupid plan. So, like, it's just nice to do some ass kicking for a change, And Dean's like, no, like, I totally get you. Like, I feel like we're connecting so much. And also, like, wow, like, we never drank together, dude. God, 2 episodes ago, Sam was like, any last words to each other? And Dean was like, I'm good.
It is so funny. I think that's what we're supposed to believe, that like the reason why Dean doesn't like just clock immediately that this is bad is because he likes it. Like it's a positive change.
Yeah,
for
like
him.
he wants this to be their relationship.
Yeah, they drink together.
Yeah.
Sam says, "You're a good guy, Dean,"
Yeah.
and Dean doesn't say anything back positive. Which is the ideal relationship, honestly.
Last episode in Sam Interrupted, Sam was also like, you know, like, you're weird, but I love you. You're my brother. And he's just like, fuck off.
So,
Man. You know, Gary's a big fan of the burger because he's not allowed to eat bread because of his allergies.
I do love that detail.
Yeah, that
It's
is fun.
Yeah.
I think if I wasn't able to eat bread, I might also dabble in a bit of witchcraft about it. I get it. Rice noodles are better than wheat noodles, though, so maybe I'd be fine.
I hate wheat noodles to my core.
Udon's a wheat noodle. You don't like udon?
Okay, well, it's fine then. I've changed my mind completely. Yeah. I don't think I eat bread that much. Or maybe like the forms of bread I eat, I don't register as bread. Maybe that's more accurate. No, I just don't eat the bread that much. Oh my god. I ate at Five Guys when I was in Hong Kong. It's so wonderful. I was like, I get it. The Winchester, I understand you fully. I get it. It's so good.
If I hadn't watched this episode at 2 a.m., I probably would have done that thing I did last time a burger was mentioned in Supernatural and gone out and got one. They're really good at advertising burgers.
I mean, I was so excited to eat at the Denny's because of Supernatural. Like, Supernatural is just a 15-year-long American food diner situation food advertisement. Yeah.
Right, and then this is where Gary's like chatting with Crystal at the bar. So yeah, we're caught up. And then he heads out with her and says excitedly to Dean, "We're gonna do it."
So stupid.
And then this is when Dean looks suspicious somehow. Well, is it that Sam's rebuffed the advances of MILFs in the past?
I think it's just that Sam is like embarrassed to have sex like a Protestant.
It's true.
And so now that he's proud of it, it's like, who is this?
It's true.
I love how I said like a Protestant.
Yeah. You're staying loyal to your own.
Yeah. We have to save a little bit of face as Catholics.
Yeah. Catholics are very proud of fucking and sucking.
Well, we should be. Oh no, we shouldn't be. Due to all of the controversies in the church that are so horrific.
Yeah. I guess that is the situation.
Sam wakes up. He's tied up in a chair. And Trevor and Nora is there. And these are, Gary's friends from earlier. And yeah, they're also in on this. And like Trevor, the way they're portrayed is Nora is kind of like she's apprehensive. She's kind of here just because her buddies are here kind of situation.
Yeah.
And Trevor is really into it. Like,
yeah,
D&D LARPing levels.
We learn later that the demons never told him what his reward was, and he still went with all of it.
You have to negotiate that first, buddy.
Yeah, like, it could have been, like, $2. Like, how do you know that it would have been worth it?
I thought, honestly, that he was gonna ask for, like, a college acceptance somewhere, which I think it would have been hilarious.
Right. Well, because Nora was planning to ask for college acceptance to Vassar. Which, like, not to be a snob, but like...
Yeah, but why? I also don't think that.
That's not even the best women's school. Like not Wellesley? Like, I don't get it. There's other reasons to like a school. Blah, blah, blah. It's about fit, not ranking. Blah, blah, blah.
If you're gonna fucking sell your soul for it, I feel like you could also sacrifice other things. Trevor is so into it. Like, the rest of this episode, he's, like, doing, like, this thing where he's, like, performing a little bit. Like, at some... Like, he tells Nora, like, oh, our satanic overlord or whatever. And Nora's like, don't be a fucking loser. I thought it was so funny. Hilarious. He said, you should commit to the bit, but not that much. His parents are out of town, and that's why he's here. And he calls up Gary, who is in the lady's bed. And he's bragging about, drinking, sleeping with women, blah, blah, blah. Sleeping with one woman, and it hasn't happened yet. Trevor asks where Dean is, which is like, I never really figured out before, like, why this is happening. Like, why Gary did this. I just thought he wanted to have a change of look.
Yeah.
He wanted to change his clothes, his hair, his face, just like Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. Played by Jeremy Allen White.
Let's not talk about it. This is like the first time we realize that, there's a deeper motive to all of this shit. Because when Trevor was asking for Dean, I actually was thinking like, wait, is he gonna transform into Dean or what? That would be quite funny. But yeah, he isn't. They just have to kill Dean. And I realized this the same time Sam does, which is pretty fun when that happens in a TV show. Gary realizes also that Sam is just hanging around in his body and meeting his family and stuff. Crystal ends up being, as you said, like, I don't know, a dominatrix of some kind.
Yeah, she's in leather. She has a flog.
Trevor's distressed that like, Gary's not actually gonna push through with it. And Sam's like, wait, how do you know, Dean? And they say that demons have been talking to them or whatever. And hell's number one most wanted is Dean. There's like this thing where Nora starts telling the story of how it happened. And Trevor tries to stop her, but she's like, oh, so we can't talk about him? And yeah, she's like, we were goofing around with that book. And Trevor's like, I wouldn't call it goofing around.
We were praying to our dark lord.
Yeah, and Nora's like, don't be a fucking loser. And like Nora says, don't be a loser, Trev. And Sam goes, yeah, Trev. You know what? Sam is funny.
Yeah, no, he's funny this episode.
I retract everything that I've ever said. He is funny.
Yeah, he just needed a good, like, partner for, like, a scene,
Yeah. And also he needs, like, a situation. He is a situational comedy kind of guy. Nora shows this drawing of Dean that's pretty good. And it's Gary who went into a weird trance, as I've said earlier. And yeah, he just started drawing and then he drew Dean. And like, I like that they're painting them as, kind of loser teenagers who are in over their heads. And it's like, because, well, they are, number one. Number two, it's fun to see. Like, it's funny. It's amusing. But when she was like, and you know what the thing is? He can't even draw. I'm just like, I don't think that's actually the thing, honestly. But like, good for you. She's like, oh, Gary had this idea to be in your body and then kill Dean, Trojan horse style. He's really smart. Sam proceeds to tell Gary later that Nora's in love with him because of this comment. I guess. Well,
I don't quite see it, but
I don't see it also.
I guess it's supposed to be obvious to us, I suppose. And of course, this is Gary's biggest thing to think about after one of his best friends was killed by a demon. And this is obviously something that Nora's gonna want to pursue after her body was used to kill one of her best friends and she was there. But
No, that's crazy. You're right.
You didn't think about that? I mean,
No,
the episode doesn't.
I thought about how Trevor is dead and they'd have to deal with that. But I didn't even think about the fact that Nora's hand killed that guy.
Like, her hand went into his chest and killed him. She's gotta be fucked up. Like, she can't be that normal at the end.
Yeah. Anyway, Sam starts this thing where he's like, guys, don't kill somebody. Don't do a demon deal. These are two things that are very bad and you won't ever recover from.
Yeah, he's being quite nice about it, and I know part of it's just to convince them, but I think he's also thinking about his past mistakes or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's why I was putting on that voice. Yeah, he's thinking like, just like me for real, and everyone's a mirror to me.
Yeah.
Like later when he starts talking to Gary at the end, and he's like, "Believe me, I know." It's so fucking stupid.
I mean, he is allowed to project on people if he wants to.
Yeah.
Like, this is a situation that is fairly similar. Like, there's people who are naive, who are trusting a demon, not knowing what they've gotten into.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same because he was trying to save the world and they just want to go to Vassar and get money, but still.
Yeah. And Nora immediately folds at Sam's one request. And she's like, no, but like, what if this is wrong? And then eventually Trevor's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to summon a demon, which he does do. And the demon wakes up in Nora's body.
Meanwhile, Gary sneaks into Dean's motel room. I guess after sex, he has a gun and he's about to shoot the lump in the bed.
Great big lump.
But it's not Dean. And Dean ambushes him and goes, "You're not Sam. Who the hell are you?" Took you long enough.
Yeah, it is fascinating to me also that he waited for confirmation in this way.
Yeah.
Like, he waited for Gary to come in and point the gun at him, quote unquote, before he was like, yeah, you're not Sam.
Yeah, he was like, well, I don't know, maybe Sam's just having a good day.
Yeah, like he really exhausted his options.
If you want to be charitable to the writers of Supernatural and to Dean Winchester, it's like, you know, they had a talk like recently about how they need to trust each other more, blah, blah, blah. And, like, in the past, when Dean pushed when Sam was acting weird, it led to a rift. But, like, I think that what you said about how Dean just didn't examine it closely because he prefers it that way is the actual truth. Nora, possessed by the demon, is talking and going, like, oh, like, where's Dean Winchester? She learns that Gary is inside Sam's body. And she's like, oh my god, like, what a good opportunity for him to say yes to Lucifer instead. So Trevor's like, yeah, I'm so cool, and also can you give me my reward? And Sam keeps telling him to shut up, but Trevor just keeps insisting.
Sam's like, shut the fuck up.
Like, apparently Trev wants $1 million and he wants Mindy Schwartz to fall in love with him. Okay, Trevor. Whatever.
And then even the demon was like, inflation's really bad, you guys.
Yeah. Like, maybe 10 million. But then she's like, but actually, I'm gonna kill you. She fucking, like, I don't know, she just, like, pushes her hand into, like, his stomach and it kills him, and then she licks his blood off of her fingers.
It's fun. It's a fun visual.
Fun.
Love that.
Yeah.
And this actor, this kid, Nora, good.
We keep saying kid. I don't know how... They could be in their 20s. I don't know how old these actors are. But yeah.
Yeah.
She did good.
When she was Nora, I was like, oh, this is like funny a little bit because of how stilted it is. Like, it is a bit stilted, but it works for what it's trying to be.
Yeah.
And then when she was a demon, I was like, oh, maybe they like hide her. Like, this is like the thing that they casted Gull for. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is the thing that they really were trying to get because she's really good at it.
Yeah, her voice and the way that she moves her head and all that.
Yeah, you can see that she watched the Meg episodes and was like, I'm gonna take inspiration from this, which I respect.
Yes. So Gary's tied up with Dean. This is when he finally hears all of the voice messages from Sam. Gary's freaking out and Dean's questioning him. And then Dean realizes that Gary's 17 and he's like, huh, well, the demon in Nora shows up.
Later on, like he says, right, like, if you weren't the kid, you'd be dead.
Yeah, if you were of voting age, we would have killed you.
Which is like, it's funny, like, you know, when he had this, oh, you're a kid moment here, he probably was literally thinking, like,
man, I can't kill him now.
Can't kill him. He's just super fucking kid.
Voting age is just 1 year older. Like, where's Gary's birthday? Like, he cut it really close on the being killed thing. Demon shows up. Sam's trying to escape his ropes. Demon tells Gary, like, hey, like, you can get whatever you want. He wants to be a powerful witch. And Nora is like, great, but first you have to meet Lucifer, and he'll just ask you a question and you just have to say yes. So go for it. Except she doesn't sound like that. She sounds creepy and cool. But yeah.
This is a terrifying aspect that I feel like we haven't talked about.
Yes.
Like, Sam's body is just there, an empty
Right.
vessel, basically. It's giving me the creeps, like, right now as we speak.
It is. It's a good plot point. Yeah.
And I liked, like, sometimes we're like, oh, it's an interesting idea, and they don't do anything with it. I like what they do with it here. Like, it's just a subtle thing that, like, it's brought up a little bit, and it's not, like, in your face. Because, the horror of it
like
is
it wasn't part of the grand plan. It just is
Yeah.
an opportunistic thing that this demon's bringing up now.
Yeah, like, the horror of it is that it's just, like, this really unlucky thing that could have happened, and it's just such a very near miss. And, like, it wasn't even, like, someone intentionally setting out to do it. It's just sometimes your luck is not with you, and then you're the devil's vessel. Like, it happens. And it's terrifying.
And it also, like, establishes that Sam's body
It's separate.
Like, his ability to hold Lucifer is separate from, like, him as a person, which is also, like, good horror, I think. The demon attacks Dean and gets him to the ground, and then Gary starts trying to exorcise her. She's, like, trying to attack Gary, but when she's attacking Gary, Dean continues the exorcism. And then, like, when she's attacking Dean, Gary's doing it. So, like, they just trade off lines until it finishes.
Honestly, it's kind of corny when they start trading off lines, because it started out as Gary can't speak because he's being, like, tracked down or whatever. And so Dean chimes in. And now they're just like, we're having a brother moment. And, like, that's not your brother.
Yeah, this whole scene, I was just thinking about how, like, I think this is for, like, the Supernatural fanboys.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's, like, for the teen boys who are watching Supernatural. Who
Like,
are like,
you too.
I wish I was besties with Sam and Dean, but actually just Dean.
Yeah.
And, like, I got to listen to rock music and eat cheeseburger. And, like, I was so good at hunting and working together with Dean. Just Dean, not Sam, though.
Honestly, like, I do, like, when he was like, turn the music up. I was like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
This kid won't do that. I know there's kids who actually listen to this shit. But, like, shut the fuck up. I mean, I also listen to quote this shit, so, but, yeah, like, it just felt so too much at that point.
Yeah, it just seems like Supernatural has this metric of cool that they think there's just, like, one way to be cool, and it's Dean Winchester.
Yeah.
It is quite annoying. And again, like, this is, like, the whole thing where it's, like, they're nice to their male fans, but not their female fans.
This is true,
So, like,
yeah.
the real Ghostbusters was, like, fairly nice to, like, Damien and Barnes. And then this is, like, clearly, like, for the high school boy fans of Supernatural. And, like, they have, like, a female character in here. And it's like, oh, she's only here because she's in love with that guy. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It irritates me. Like, I know I said in the real Ghostbusters, like, I don't think anyone wants to be 17. Like, that's my issue with it. But, like, I think my actual issue with it is that I think that there are girls who wanted to be 17. And, like, Supernatural says again and again, like, you only like Supernatural because you're attracted to certain men.
Yeah. Yeah.
With Becky, with fan fiction, with Nora, it's just all irritating.
Yeah. Feminism is, in fact, being allowed to hunt. But, like, I'm being so for real. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
After they killed Ellen and Joe, too.
Yeah.
It is about women getting to suck just as much as men. And then, like, going, what if we all didn't suck, though? Like, either order of those things is good, but since Supernatural doesn't do what if we didn't all suck, then, like, just let the women suck and be hunters, too. But yeah, the exorcism works. The end.
The end. Nora's just there. This is the house. The Trevor's corpse is somewhere here. They never acknowledge it.
Yeah, like, what are they gonna do about, like, his parents are gonna come back to, like,
to
their
their dead
dead,
child.
clearly murdered child in the basement?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, it's gonna come out that Gary was acting weird this week, and he just got driven home by, like, two weird men in a classic car, like...
And Nora is, like, being driven to his house also.
Yeah.
They don't drive her to her house.
Yeah, what is it? Like, what? So they can fuck it out after Sam tells him? Like, what is this?
Gary is reciting a Latin spell to revert Sam and him back to their own bodies. And so, yeah, they do. And Sam's like, wow, it's really a me. And he's like, wow, it's nice to be back. And Gary's like, yeah, I guess. And Dean puts on his reprimanding voice and is like, okay, so Gary. And Gary's like, I know, my bad. And Dean's like, my bad? If you were voting age, we would have killed you. And he goes like, so you straighten up and fly right, or we will kill you.
Incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah.
You should, like, be like, hey, your friend in the basement is dead, and that thing that demon was asking you was for you to be possessed by Lucifer. Like, you need to give him the information, not just, like, be good or I'll kill you. Like, what does straighten up and fly right even mean here, Dean? You're terrible at this.
Yeah, like, what you're supposed to show is, like, your actions have consequences. And this is an action that could have had really bad consequences.
And already did have really bad consequences.
Sorry, Trevor. But, like, yeah, they don't give a fuck. Also, like, I did find hilarious Gary's face in this scene. Because when Dean goes, like, because we would kill you, he does this face of, like, oh. He's like, okay.
I thought we were friends, Dean.
And I thought it was the most amusing thing.
Also, the whole time Nora's just wrapped up in a blanket, like, looking
She
scared.
never speaks again. She has no speaking line again.
But yeah, and, like, I guess the huddled up in a blanket and not speaking is meant to be, like, she is experiencing some trauma over this, but, like, not really. They're just, like, they just don't care about her, so they're, like, we'll just put her in the background there.
Like, you can do one where, like, she still doesn't speak, but, like, somebody acknowledges her in any way that's like, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it could be done. But also just give her lines. Like, just give her something to say. Whatever.
Like, she could be part of the, like, straighten up and fly right conversation. Like, she could be angry at Gary or something, you know?
Yeah. But, yeah, all we learn from that is that she doesn't actually want to be a witch. She's just in love with Hugh. So fucking stupid.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, but as someone who did get into astrology...
No.
Because of romantic interests. I understand.
Ow.
Sam is like, hey, Gary, you have to listen to me. Your life, it's not that bad. And Gary's like, you met my parents.
They're totally fine. They're
He should have said, like, my best friend is dead.
I can't eat bread. Or that.
Like, your life was fine, but now it's horrible. So, Sam's like, no, it's your life. You don't like their plan for you? Tell them to cram it and then proceed to facilitate the death of your best friend. And, you know, he's like, rebel a little in a healthy, non-satanic way. And he's like, you know, Nora's into witchcraft because she's in love with you. And Gary's like, wow, you really think that? And Sam's like, I know. I'm telling you, kid. I wish I had your life.
In this episode where we talk about, like, the issues, where we're like, it's fine that Sam and Dean's idea of settling down involves having a wife because that's just what's expected. I do think it's also, like, I don't know, this whole, like, oh, like, Gary's miserable, but it's okay, I'm gonna get him a girlfriend and then he'll be fine. It is, like, a idea of, like, feeling entitled to or, like, needing the affection of a woman.
Yeah.
In order to, like, be complete or whatever in a way that feels misogynistic.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily like, I wouldn't label it primarily as misogyny. Like, again, I would label it primarily as social whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's the flattening of Nora's.
The flattening of Nora is definitely
Yeah,
misogynistic.
that's the issue
Yeah.
more than. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so, like, different time. And I mean, even now, I think maybe, like, I've met straight people. I talk to them.
Uh-huh.
And I like, it's still a pervasive idea. I feel that, like, you do need someone like that to be in a relationship. And I'm not judging. Like, I understand that some people function better. Or in
and
that.
some queer people also feel like they need to be in a relationship.
Yeah. There are some people who function better in that kind of, like, dynamic and that kind of setting. And yeah, good for them.
An economist named Corinne Lowe, I think, has a working paper about how, like, basically, like, if women get married to a man, they end up doing more housework than they did when they were living alone because, like, there's
It's
two
for
people
two
to clean
people.
after and the man does absolutely nothing. But in lesbian relationships, they do the same amount. Same-sex gay male relationships, it's more specialized in that the one who earns more does less housework and the one who earns less does most of it. The point of her paper was that even in households where the woman earns more and therefore it would make more sense for her to spend more of her time on
She
her
also
career.
does housework.
Yeah,
more.
she does way more housework than the man, etc., which is known, but it was fun to see the graphs about how bad the gap is. But yeah, anyway, some people might function better in a relationship, but in terms of, like, how they use their time well, like, it actually is a drag on your life, like, on average, if you're a woman married to a man.
Yeah. Well, I can't tell my straight friends that, can I? Yeah, Sam's like, I wish I had your life. Yeah. Gary and Nora head out.
Yeah, for Gary's house. Why?
I don't know. Well, Dean says, that was a nice thing for you to say. And Sam just goes, I totally lied. That kid's life sucked ass. And Dean just,
So
like,
funny.
stares at him. It's so good. Love that.
Sam was really funny this episode, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how in character I find this line, but also I think it's so funny, so it's fine.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. And I find it hilarious because, you know, like, this is their, you know, like, Sam has a one-liner about what he learned from the episode or whatever. And, like, the most iconic one that we have had so far, I think, is Hope's kind of the whole point. And then the second one is this one, which I find so incredibly funny.
Yeah,
Literally.
that kid's life sucked ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. He specifically says that the apple pie family crap is stressful.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if I caught that as Sam's main. Like, it seemed like his issue was that it was very limiting.
Yeah,
Like, to be a kid. But, like, what does stressful mean here? Like, is this just connected to his, like, we shouldn't have any connections with other people because we're going to bring them down with us, etc. stuff? Like, I don't think he was at all concerned about Gary's sister or parents.
Yeah, and also stressful is such a fascinating way to put it because, well, I'm pretty sure hunting is also stressful.
Yeah, it seems kind of stressful to me.
So, like, that shouldn't be the metric that you're measuring here.
Yeah. I guess if Sam's passively suicidal, like, there is some relief to the stress of hunting because the stress is like, I might die, you know?
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, I think if they wanted to end on it being stressful, like, he should have connected with Gary's family, like, at all. And they should have been, like, somewhat in danger at a point.
Yeah, like, why is Dean connecting with this random ass 17-year-old? And then, like, Sam's, like, unable to connect with anyone.
Yeah, he's like, all of you are fucking losers.
Yeah. They hop into the car and, you know, Sam's like, we didn't miss a thing. And Dean's like, I don't know, or maybe we don't know what we're missing. And then he starts the car, music blast. Sam's like, ugh, turn it down. And yeah, that's the end of the episode. Again, I enjoyed it.
I enjoy it more now that I've talked about it.
We had a fun conversation about it. Yeah.
Yeah. When we talked about like the Lucifer possession thing, I was like, fine, this is allowed to fit into season 5 canon, whatever. I still think that Sam just not really connecting to anyone is like strange to me. But yeah, it was mostly a fun time.
I never really thought about the foreshadowing for Lisa. Like, I never really viewed season 5 in that lens before. And, well, I think it's nice to, like, be viewing it now and be seeing those bricks be built, you know?
Yeah, pretty clumsily, I would say.
Yeah,
but
like, I'm fascinated by it. You know, like, Supernatural, being a fan of Supernatural has taught me so many alternative words to like.
Yeah,
a lot of Supernatural is not about liking it, it's about finding it interesting, which are very different things, and I think it's interesting. Well, best line, worst line.
I mean, that kid's life sucked ass is pretty iconic.
It's hilarious. Yeah, I think my worst line is when Gary was like, "No, you're a good guy, dude," or whatever he says there. It's so stupid.
It is quite fucking stupid. My worst line is when Sam tells Gary that Nora likes him.
Yeah, that was also bad. I think my best line is when Sam was like, "Yeah, Trev." Like, when he said that, I burst out laughing, and I was downstairs, it's like in the living room, and my sister's boyfriend, who found out earlier that day that I was watching Supernatural, was there.
Aww.
And so I snorted, and then I immediately was like, no, he's going to think I find Supernatural funny.
No, he can't know that I'm laughing at Supernatural.
And I literally was. It's so embarrassing.
Well, it was funny.
It was funny.
Spreadsheets. Okay, misogyny exists.
Who would have thunk? I think it's 2.
1 or 2, yeah. 2 sounds good to me.
You know, when we were editing Abandon All Hope, and I was listening to myself talk about the misogyny of that episode, I wanted to kill me for not putting it higher.
Yeah.
But we don't do the retroactive
go back.
changing. You want?
We could go back.
Yeah.
We could do it, yeah.
We need to put a 4 or 3 there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now we only have it as a 1.
Yeah.
I think I was mostly swayed by you during the recording. And then later I think I saw the reviews where people were like, and I found out that they killed Ellen and Joe because the fans said that they hated them. And I was like, how could they? This is awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's just put a 4.
Yeah.
All right. Racism, not that I recall.
Yeah. Homophobia.
Homophobia.
I would say there's a 1 here. Like, just the general vibe of the salad.
Yeah, just the general vibe of the salad, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, IMDb.
I think people would I don't know if people, I feel like people would like this because they like the funny ones and they like when Supernatural does something new. However, I wonder if they think that it's unrealistic that Dean wouldn't notice, or if they find Gary like annoying. in the real Ghostbusters way.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, I was just gonna, I want to mention it again, I guess. I do think the way they filmed this episode was pretty cool. That one flub with the telephone notwithstanding, like, all the mirror scenes are so good. Like, I mean, they must have, like, just put Jared and then, like, the kid on the other side, right?
Yeah, probably.
And then, like, made them act the same. Fun! It was so good.
Fun.
Also, like, I was bothered a little bit by the eye lines. Because, like, you know, when Dean and the kid are talking, Dean's eyes are, like, directed at the kid's eyes. And it's like, well, it should be, like, a foot above. Because Sam is so tall. But that's it. So, okay. IMDb.
I'm gonna guess an 8.7, which was the Curious Cases score. I feel like it's in that territory.
I would say this is an 8.5. I am sticking with the rating of Sam Interrupt.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Oh.
What?
It's an 8.2.
Oh, they really thought that kid was annoying.
Yeah, this one is like, it's funny, but doesn't handle the plot well. The writers don't handle Gary well. The resolution to his story feels too slight and pat. It feels like a cheat that Sam and Dean only warned him. Yeah.
The next review is like, what the fuck happened to Trevor's body? Like,
Yeah.
real same.
People are of the general agreement that this is like just fine or worse than that. Yeah, this episode makes no sense. Like a shapeshifter, Gary the Witch has zero insight into Sam's mind when he takes his body. So everything from his posture to the way he talks.
But like the
should give
point
him
is that
away.
he's like sort of a Sam mirror, so it just happens that he can sort of
No,
pass
I
it
think
off.
we can assume that like he was given ideas by like demonic blah blah blah, or he observed Sam or something. Like he must know something about Sam because like the demons like talk to them about Dean, and also like he planned to do it. Like
Right.
they were tracking Sam and Dean somehow in some way. So, well, that's it for this episode of Best Asian Beauties. Next week, or maybe next time, who knows at this point, we will be watching Season 5, Episode 13, The Song Remains the Same. Leave us a rating or review wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bestasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is BABPOD, BABPod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bestasianbeautiespod, which is where our outtakes live. And check out our merch at badpod.redbubble.com.
You can email us any feedback, comments, or inquiries at bestasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.